In today's video, I'm finishing up the aft wing strut on the Zenith Super Duty. And this is proving to be a very challenging strut to build, for me anyway. The upper fitting that goes into the strut goes in at a very slight angle. And that angle is kind of screwing everything up. In fact, I screwed up drilling one of the holes for the bolts that go through, and that bolt now is a little bit crooked. I'll explain that and show that a little bit later in the video. It's something I'm just going to live with. It sucks that it's crooked. It bugs the crap out of me. But what I'm going to start off with on this video is the left aft strut, and then I'm going to screw that one up, and then I'm going to do a different method on the right side. And what you're going to see is the method that I used the second time actually works a lot better, and then all the bolts now are perfect in the right side. So again, the left one, I'll just have to live with one crooked bolt. Here is the latest on the aft strut. So I have cut a little bit off of the forward strut to make room here. The bottom no longer contacts the attach bracket. And I've come up with a great idea for the top, which is going to save me a lot of time. I think instead of measuring and cutting and drilling all these holes, I could just kind of tape it together like this, and I think it would be just fine. Actually, I have this taped so that I can measure how much I need to cut off of this top of the strut. You can see how it interferes here. So it looks like maybe a good 3/8 of an inch I'll cut off. And then I can insert this into here, and of course do all the hole drilling just like I did on the forward strut. The aft strut is now attached, and I decided not to use my masking tape method. So the next step here is I need to drill the holes in here, mark them on the attach bracket, and then match drill everything exactly like I did up here in episode 95 or 94. So I won't really show you that because, like I said, it's exactly the same, but I did get the strut cut just to the right size there. And again, it fits nicely down here. So yeah, all I have to do now, like I said, is I'll just drill these holes, and this side will be done. I'll move on to the left side. Well, looking at the plans and the actual strut itself, it is not exactly the same as the front strut. I don't know if you'll be able to tell if I hold this flat. This insert in here, or this attach fitting, is a little bit angled in the strut. So if you compare this line right here to this line, it's not parallel. And so it's not exactly the same, and attaching this is not going to be the same as the front strut. And you can even tell on the computer drawing here, if you're looking at it head on, you see this right here, you can see that it goes in there at a slight angle. Now, in order to hold the attach fitting in here at the correct angle so it doesn't move kind of left and right, because with just a bolt in here, it's pretty loose. So I've put a nut on here to hold it tight, and now it's going to be at the exact angle that it wants to be at when the nut is in there.
The first thing I did was drilled one hole in the upper end, the bottom of the upper end of the strut. And for this picture, ignore the ruler. I'm just using a picture to show you the hole. The ruler has nothing to do with this, but I did want to mention that the plans indicate that hole should be 10 millimeters from the edge, and I chose to drill mine 15, simply just because I wanted a little bit more edge distance between the hole and the end of the strut. Now the tricky part is, how do you know where to drill the other two holes? Because like I said, it's angled. It's not going to be perpendicular to the end of the strut. So the only way I figured out how to do it was I put a ruler on the top, and I held it flat against the edge that, the bolt goes through. You can see in the top of the picture there. And while I had that in place, I drew a line on the strut. Here is the line that I drew on the strut, and you can see that it is angled. And then what I did after that was I just drilled a parallel line to that going through the original hole that I drilled. So now I know where the center line of that upper attach fitting is. With the parallel line drawn, the next step was to drill the remaining 2 holes, and I did that in the drill press, just like I showed you in, I think, the previous video.
Now I just want to interrupt and come back here for a minute, because when I put that ruler on here, on the other side, it actually worked perfect. But what I noticed, it didn't work when I did it on the right side, because these little tabs here, they're kind of a little bit bowed, not much at all, but just a tiny bit. So when I put the ruler on here, it really didn't get me the correct angle that I wanted. So what I did was I just put the ruler on here, you can see the line here, and I just kind of gauged it from the edge of here and then continued it down. And then I kind of did the same thing with that one hole that was drilled here. I just made the center line down. So putting a ruler on there may work for you, it may not. Again, don't just blindly do what I'm doing. Just really pay attention to what you're doing and try to figure out how to find that center line on that fitting.
Now I have the strut put back on the wing, and this is where it becomes a little bit more challenging here. So what I want to do next is drill up through here with these 2 holes, right? But normally I would take this off and do it in a drill press. But if I take this off, this now can rotate on this axis, because this is drilled all the way through. So if I take it off, this could change like that, and then I drill through at the wrong angle, or have this at the wrong angle. So what I'm going to do is take my hand drill and drill straight up through here, through the top, and that would lock these 2 in position, and then I can take this one off and do it on a drill press. The trick is to get this, to hold that drill as perpendicular this way and this way as you can, so that the bolt isn't crooked in there. I really don't like to do that by hand. I can eyeball it pretty good, but I'm not perfect. But I don't know any other way to do this. If I take it off, that angle could change, and then it wouldn't fit on here correctly. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to drill this hole, take it off, and then do this one in the drill press. All right, I thought I'd show this to you. I have all 3 holes drilled. You can see that it's in there at an angle. And I wanted to show you this one here. I hand drilled with my hand drill, and you'll notice it's absolutely perfect. This one I did in a drill press. It's perfect. This stupid one here that I did with the hand drill, it's a hair crooked, and it really makes me mad. It's perfect fore and aft, but it's a little bit crooked this way. And I think the reason why is because I had as much drill bit as I could sticking out of the drill, so that when I drilled the hole, I could look at the drill bit and see if it's perpendicular. And it was perpendicular, but I think once it went inside and then caught the inside of this tube to go out, it must have bent or moved. So, this one's a little bit crooked. It's not the end of the world. I can't even get my camera to focus on it. It's just slightly crooked, but, damn it. That kind of makes me mad, but, it's going to work just fine. I'm not going to replace the strut or anything because of that, but that's why I don't like to hand drill them, and that's why it's worth the effort on every single hole, top and bottom, to make a jig like I did and put it in a drill press. Unfortunately, with this one, I just didn't know any other way to do it in a drill press and then keep this attach fitting at the correct angle. So I had to drill one of them with a hand drill. And like I said, I did the same thing with this one, and it came out absolutely perfect, but this stupid one got a little bit crooked. All right, so on the left side of the airplane, the front and aft struts are done. I've left this middle bolt out because I'm too embarrassed to look at it. So my buddy Steve's probably the best machinist I've ever known, so I'm going to see if there's a way that he can fix that. Maybe obviously it'd have to go up a bolt size, but if I go from a 3/16 to an AN4 bolt, a 1/4 inch bolt, we might be able to straighten that out. So if anybody can do it, he can do it. If he can't do it, then unfortunately I've got to throw this whole entire airplane in the recycle bin and scrap it for scrap aluminum and start over. Hope I don't have to do that. With the left side done, my next step is to do the right side and hopefully do a better job on this side.
Then when this is... Now on the right wing, I'm going to try to use a different method here so I don't have to hand drill a hole all the way through the strut, because now I'm paranoid about it being crooked. So I've started off the same way here. I have my hole drilled and everything's lined up. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill through here into the steel piece, just one hole. I'm not going to go all the way through. And then I'm going to put a couple clamps on here and just try to squeeze down on here so that this doesn't move. And then I'll take it off and I'll do it in the drill press. What I've done now is drilled the hole. Matt's drilled through the strut into the steel piece. And I've also, when I had this off, I drew this parallel line to here. That should be the center line of where the bolts will go through. Here's my new plan, which I'm hoping works. I have the cleco in here, so I've drilled one hole through here. I didn't go all the way through, it's just through one side. I have my parallel line drawn, and I have marked where the other holes get drilled. So what I'm hoping is to take this whole thing off as an assembly without this rotating in the strut, and that's why the clamps are on there. I'm hoping that puts pressure, it squeezes the strut and holds this in position so that I can take the whole strut off, put it in a drill press, and then drill that hole all the way through, drill this one all the way through, then I can remove the clamps and then drill that middle hole. That way I don't have to hand drill any of the holes. I think this is going to work. I've got this perfectly lined up. Obviously the strut is leveled in both directions. And now I can drill straight through the strut, the steel fitting, and right out the back, and it'll be perfectly square. So what I'll do is I'll drill this one, then I'm going to finish drilling straight through this one. Then I can put a cleco in the bottom, that'll hold it in the perfect position, and then I'll drill the middle hole somewhere in there. So that's the plan. Boy, I wish I would have thought of doing it this way before I screwed up the other one. Well, the new plan is working perfectly. I've got one drilled all the way, actually they're all drilled all the way through. That one's to 3/16. Now I'm about to drill through this one. Then I'll put a bolt through there, remove these clecos, and drill through there. So I didn't have to hand drill any of them. This is a much better way to do it. Well, yes, the second method works a lot better. There's no crooked bolts, all of them are drilled in there now. It actually worked very nicely, so that is definitely the better of the two methods to do it. I really wish I would have thought about that before I did that side. Now I have a crooked bolt in there, but whatever. I'm not going to replace the whole strut and the fittings and everything just for one slightly crooked bolt. It is what it is. So, but anyway, the struts are done. Now I can move on to those little jury struts. Those jury struts go on the bottom of the wing here from these little brackets. They'll come down and attach to the front strut. And there's another one from this little bracket that comes down, attaches to here. Then there's a bar that goes that way. And all that does is just, because these are so long, it just kind of stiffens them in the middle. And this is what they look like here. They're just a bunch of steel pieces. So they will get trimmed if necessary. And then all the holes need to be drilled, the edges rounded off. And then I'll either prime them or paint them or take them to the powder coater. The powder coating makes a great primer, and sometimes that's a little bit easier. So since these will be Army green like the rest of the airplane, I can just get them powder coated white. And then what I do is I just scuff up that white powder coating, and that's basically the primer. Then I can shoot a coat of green over them. So that will be the next step on the wing installation.
You know, I've had a few people ask me on my cruiser, what was the most difficult part about building that airplane? And I never really have a good answer because I don't really think there was anything that was exceptionally difficult on that airplane. Now, when somebody asked me about the Super Duty, by far, so far, the most difficult part of this entire airplane is that upper aft wing strut attached fitting, because it goes into the strut at an angle. It's very difficult to do and get lined up and figure out where the holes are going to go. This is something that I'm going to suggest to Zenith, that why not just make a jig at the factory and drill those 3 holes and have that completely done. In fact, all of these struts, it seems to me that it would be very easy for Zenith to cut all of the struts to the correct length, put it in a jig and drill all of the holes through everything so we really just bolt it all together. Maybe they don't do that because it would interfere with the 51% rule, I don't know. But I will tell you this, I would gladly pay an extra $1,000 for this kit to have those wing struts come pre-drilled. So the jury struts will be another video. That's it for this. I've been working nonstop on this, it seems like, for the last few days. I am done and I'm taking a break and I'm going to finally get some stuff done around the house.